When David Miller married Sarah Miller, he naively believed all his troubles were behind him. Organizing the wedding, enduring endless advice from all sides, and facing the threat of bankruptcy to their family budget, he had endured it all. But, as it turned out, the real test was his mother-in-law. Eleanor Vance was a woman of unyielding character. A single glance from her could make even a concrete wall crack. What hope did David Miller have? From day one, she made her stance clear. "You married my daughter, but that doesn't mean I trust you. I see right through you," she declared during a family dinner, narrowing her eyes as if he were the prime suspect in a heist of the century. "I see myself as a decent man," he tried to joke, but his words were drowned in her icy stare. "I see how desperately you try to appear decent." After that phrase, David Miller understood a war had begun. Every encounter with his mother-in-law turned into a living nightmare. She criticized everything: how he sliced bread, how he held his fork, how he parked. "Why are you so close to the neighbor's car? There's a whole meter of space left." A meter? It's these meters that cause families to crumble. Everything starts small. He bent over backward to please her, but the harder he tried, the worse things became. Sarah Miller merely chuckled. "Don't worry, she tests everyone like this." "And how long will this go on?" Well, she vetted Mr. Vance for about 15 years, David thought with dread. But fate, as they say, loves to spring surprises. One day, something happened that fundamentally changed his relationship with Eleanor Vance. Sarah Miller was offered a long-term project in another city and left for 3 months. "Don't worry, Mom. David will manage perfectly fine here," she assured her. Eleanor Vance cast a skeptical glance at him, as if he were an irresponsible child left alone at home. "Well, well," she grumbled. And that's when a new phase of their relationship began. On the very first day without Sarah Miller, David discovered the refrigerator was empty. He went to the store and realized with horror that grocery shopping was a much more complex task than he had imagined. He thought he'd bought everything necessary, but returning home, he found he had cheese and pasta, but no butter or salt. "Brilliant," he muttered, looking at his pathetic bag. Just then, the phone rang. "Well, I bet you're starving, aren't you?" a familiar voice said on the other end. "Eleanor Vance, good evening." "Don't pretend you're happy to hear from me." "I'm not pretending." "All right, listen, I made some borscht. Should I bring you some?" This was completely unexpected. Thanks." "No need to be so surprised," she cut in. "I didn't poison it." Thus began their strange friendship. She brought him food, and he, not knowing how to repay her, once asked, "Do you need anything? Why the sudden politeness?" "Well, you're helping me. Maybe I can help you too?" She gave him an appraising look. "My TV is acting up. Could you take a look?" That's how it all started. He fixed her appliances, and she fed him. They argued about politics, about movies, about whether you could put plates in the dishwasher without rinsing them. "That's stupid, just wasting water," David fumed. "Stupid is washing the same plate twice," she retorted. And they laughed. Gradually, a strange but pleasant connection formed between them. They stopped seeing each other as enemies. But then, one day, something happened that turned everything upside down. David stayed late at her house, helping with some wiring. It was already late, and Eleanor offered him to stay. "You're not going to drive across town in the middle of the night, are you? Just call Sarah and let her know." He called. Sarah didn't object. During the night, David was woken by some noise. He went into the hallway and saw his mother-in-law in the kitchen. She was sitting at the table with a shot glass of vodka, staring into space. "Everything's fine," she said quietly, as if justifying herself. Eleanor looked up, and he saw her like that for the first time. Not tough, not strict, just tired. "Do you think I was always like this?" "Like what? A battle axe who bosses everyone around?" He didn't know what to say. "I'm just tired of being strong," she said with bitterness. "But life doesn't ask if you're ready or not." And at that moment, David understood that she wasn't an enemy. She was a person with pain, with a past, with things that made her who she was. And it was unexpected. "Would you like to drink with me?" she asked. He sat opposite her. "Yes, please." They drank and talked about life, about Sarah, about men and women, about how easy it is to judge people until you're in their shoes. And the next morning, everything was as it had been, only not quite. When Sarah returned, everything fell back into place. Well, almost. David noticed that he now looked at Eleanor differently, not as an enemy, not as a formidable mother-in-law, but as a person who was tired of life but hadn't given up. She had changed too, stopped nitpicking, no longer made comments about forks, parking, or his style of dress. Sarah didn't notice. She, as before, would say, "Mom, you're at it again, with your tests." But her mother wasn't testing anyone anymore. Sometimes at family dinners, their eyes would meet. There was nothing incriminating about it, but David felt a strange tension, as if they knew something no one else did. Memories of that night, when she sat in the kitchen with a shot glass of vodka, when she opened up to him for the first time, never left him. Sometimes he thought she was about to say something important, but she never did. Sarah Miller was in the bathroom when David was about to leave. Suddenly, Eleanor Vance quietly said, "Thank you for staying then." David turned, looking at her questioningly. "Were you feeling bad?" "I couldn't leave," he replied. "I know," she whispered, and a knowing smile flickered across her face, as if she had grasped something important, but didn't want to voice it. David merely nodded and walked out the door. Everything returned to normal: family dinners, trips, conversations. They never mentioned that night again, but something subtle had changed. Sometimes the most important things remain unsaid. Sometimes people understand each other without words, and this silent understanding can be frighteningly stronger than any confession. The price of someone else's happiness. After that evening, when David saw Eleanor not in her usual image of an iron lady, but simply as a woman tired of life, something broke in their relationship. The change wasn't immediate, not sudden, but it was felt in everything. She stopped controlling his every move. The suspicious glances and nitpicking disappeared. She even began to show genuine interest in his life. "How's work?" She'd ask over a cup of tea. "Same as always. I think I should change it," David would reply. "What's stopping you?" "Habit, I guess," he'd shrug. Eleanor would nod, as if she understood him. But with Sarah, their relationship became increasingly difficult. They seemed to drift apart. At first, it was small things. Sarah forgot to call back. David stayed late at work and wasn't in a hurry to get home. Then things became more serious. They stopped sharing important things, simply coexisted. One day Sarah said, "I feel like you've changed." "In what way?" David asked. "I don't know, but you're different, not the man I married," He wanted to say that it was normal. People change. But something inside told him the problem was deeper. And then something happened that finally called everything into question. One evening, David went to his mother-in-law's house to help with chores. The conversation went further than he expected. "You're unhappy," she suddenly said, looking him straight in the eyes. David looked up sharply. "What makes you say that?" "I'm not blind. I see it." He was silent for a long time, not knowing how to respond. "Are you happy?" he finally asked. She smirked. "And what is happiness? How did you imagine it when you were a boy?" David pondered. Family, home, stability. But now he didn't know what to say. That night, he couldn't sleep for a long time. Staring at the ceiling, he tried to understand when everything went wrong. Did he love Sarah? Yes, but not like before. Was he comfortable with Eleanor? Yes, but that didn't mean anything. The next morning, he decided he couldn't live like this anymore. He hadn't cheated on Sarah, hadn't done anything reprehensible, but living in a lie any longer was unbearable. "Sarah, we need to talk," he said that evening, gathering his courage. She looked at him, and in her eyes he saw something that crushed him. She knew everything. "I felt it for a long time, David," she said quietly. "You're with me, but you're not really here." "I'm sorry," he whispered. She didn't cry, didn't make a scene, just nodded wearily. The divorce proceeded without scandal. They parted almost amicably. And Eleanor? She didn't say a word when she learned of the divorce. What next? David moved to another apartment. Sarah moved to another city. They barely communicated, only exchanging rare messages. One day, David went into a cafe, ordered coffee, and suddenly heard a familiar voice. "You've completely disappeared," Eleanor said, sitting opposite him. He chuckled. "How are you?" "Good." They were silent. "You realize that if we start talking it will be strange," she said. "I understand," David replied. "But you still want to?" she asked, looking him straight in the eyes. She said nothing, just gave a slight nod. And that nod was more important than any words. They didn't become a couple, didn't move in together, didn't declare themselves a pair. But sometimes they met, talked, laughed. And each time, looking at Eleanor, David understood life is too short to live by someone else's rules.